We're back with Don Walker, CEO of Magna International. Don, before the break, we were talking about one of my favorite subjects, the concept of character versus competence when it comes to hiring people. And during the break, we got to talking about an organization over in Europe that brings people in for a week to work with a team before they actually make a formal offer. And you shared that some of the folks within your organization do the same. Can you share a little bit more about what that is and what's involved in that?
Well, we are primarily a manufacturing plant, so people for the most part, unless they're looking after the equipment, for the most part are doing something with their hands or doing something to make a product. So you want to have people that can understand statistical process control, look at control limits, look at charts, can understand it. They also, depending on what they're doing, they have to have dexterity, they need to be able to work at a certain pace, they need to be able to handle stress. We don't have a common way of looking at it because, quite frankly, we have 40 different types of operations. We have mold shops, stamping plants, painting plants, you name it, we've got it. So every plant will do their own thing. But if you look at a plant where people are going to be doing some manual work, for example, and many of our plants will set up a test procedure and ask people to do something and then train them, well, this is a better way to do it, and see if they can follow the training. And then maybe throw something in that would frustrate somebody because it doesn't fit and see how they handle that. So there's a lot of different techniques. I think it's very difficult in an initial interview to really tell what a person to be like. We used to work in a unionized environment. It's called a 90-day wonder. And we do have a probationary period where somebody's great for 90 days and then
it's amazing how they last that 90 days, isn't it?
But you're really trying to get people that you don't have to have a higher education, but you have to have an interest. You have to have the intelligence to at least be able to figure out what we're doing. And we've started employing a lot of, we'll call it Japanese manufacturing techniques. I'm very interested in specifically what was done at Toyota. And we brought a couple of experts in, and we are looking for people that will come into an area, work together, solve problems, figure out how to streamline things, one-piece flow, their own quality checks, and they have brilliant ideas. So you want to have people, they're not just coming to do a job. You want to have people that are coming to be engaged and figure out how to improve things. And the best people, hopefully, will be interested in taking the next step in their career and teaching other people. So we have a lot of different techniques, but I think it's you want to do, and there's a lot of good ideas out there with how you can screen people. But I think doing something, whether it's consistent everywhere in the company, but doing something. Is it worth the money and the time and effort? Because if you have somebody's going to come into your company and they're going to be there for 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years, getting the right person is well worth any amount of money you spend up front. Getting the wrong person
and if you get the wrong person, I mean, the cost of 3 months in or 6 months in having to start the whole process over again is just,
and training the people, and that there's a cost to that, and if people don't show up, then you have quality problems. So you really want to have people that are dedicated and capable of doing the job.
Yeah, I think taking the time up front, and you mentioned earlier about doing the reference checks. I mean, I fully appreciate that. Sometimes we have to be careful about what we say and what we ask, but the reality is you need to really dig deep and find out about people's past experiences, because it really does predict future experience.
And it depends what you're talking about too. If we're looking at a general manager or a vice president position, you want a different set of skills, but you definitely want to understand their motivation, their work ethic, their leadership ability, because people in senior areas of a company our size are making $500,000, multi-million-dollar decisions all the time. That's why I always find it a little bit surprising when somebody's saying, well, geez, you're paying somebody in the government too much money, you're paying them $300,000.
Yeah.
They may be looking after $30 billion portfolio. I would go out and pay the top amount, because a really great person will save you $1 billion a year. A really bad person will blow $1 billion a year. So we're not trying to be penny pinchers with our managers. We're trying to get the best possible people, and it pays back tenfold.
Now, do you have the ability for people within your organization to start out, not literally in the mailroom like we used to hear about, but for people to work through the organization and achieve success? Now, how does that kind of process work, and what kind of support do you provide to those people?
It really depends. It's managed at the divisional level again, but you have somebody who comes in who's got good work ethic, you see it right away. And if they're if they're working hard, they're pitching in, they're coming up with ideas, sky's the limit. Frank Starnick, who started the company, was a tool and die maker. Now he started the company, but you can have somebody in there if they've got good leadership skills, and we'll send them on training. The most difficult thing for us right now in Magna is finding good people. We're growing 115,000 people. We're launching 40 new plants around the world. Having people that understand our culture, know how to treat people, that are technically competent, who can travel, who can launch new plants, who can backfill for people who are retiring. That is our number one problem. If you get the best people, all the problems go away.
So how are you dealing with that? Because I mean, the truth of the matter is that, you know, there's a small coffee company down in the U.S. that grew incredibly fast. It kind of peaked, and then the service quality dropped off almost because it grew too fast. It kind of contracted, and now it's trying to grow again. And I think most people can guess the name of that company. But their problem is they grew so fast that they had to start throwing people into positions that they weren't really appropriate for. They weren't the right person for. So if you're in that same kind of position, what kind of steps are you as Magna taking to make sure that, you know, you're not just hiring because they know how to do the job, but they actually fit with the culture?
Well, I mentioned already we've rolled out it's called the leadership development system. It's consistent, it's global. We've been doing it now for about a year. It'll take 3 or 4 years to get it out and make sure we've got it populated. But the first 900 people we've got in the company, we're trying to have that done by Christmas of this year.
Where is that based out of?
Well, the head office for Magna is in Aurora, so we're running out of there, but it's really all of our operating groups. We have many operating groups around the world that have many plants. They own it. Everybody's had input into it, so it's consistent. And then each division has to figure out, do they have competent people? Are those people willing to move if we need them somewhere else? Do they have the ability to be promoted to the next position? So we will have all this in a database. And I don't want to get too bureaucratic, because you still want to have the personal touch to it. But if we need 15 great managers who speak this language or are willing to go to this country over the next 5 years, we want to find out who they are, give people the opportunity to grow. In a company the size of Magna, because it's decentralized and very autonomous, in the past we wouldn't necessarily know where the talent was, whether those people were leaving, or we wouldn't be able to attract some of the best people because there wasn't a system for them to grow within the company. So it's going to be a really important tool if we get it right. But I think what we're really looking for is make sure you understand who's got what capability, train people, and then put them in the right seat in the bus, because somebody may be very good at one job and not good at another. So you have to recognize that as well.
So how do you deal with the fact that a decentralized company, and you know, if I'm a manager or a leader within one of the organizations and I've identified some really top talent in my team, I may not be thrilled about you scooping them and moving them to another part of the world, because truthfully I don't totally share the big picture. I mean, I really focus on my world. How do you deal with that?
That's a great question in an environment where we're very decentralized, very autonomous, and people get paid by what they manage.
Their performance of their team. Because
people don't want to lose the best people. So we've sort of got a written or unwritten rule. We're not going to yank good people out and leave somebody standing. But at the same time, a good manager will understand that if you have good people and they don't have the room for advancement, they may leave or become disenchanted as well. And if everybody's doing a good job in developing people, then the company does better. They may be able to get a talent at some point in time.
They could be replacing and refilling with someone that's equally talented.
And because we're in a global industry, if we have a plant that's not performing somewhere, our customers know about it, and it sort of taints everybody. So there's a lot more willingness now than there was 15 years ago to be, I would call it, a team player. But it is a real issue, because if you're a manager and you've built up a great team, or you've found the great people, you don't want to lose them all. Yeah. So you have to have a balance. You can't penalize people for developing a great team.
Well, and I mean, that's the other thing people say about training is, you know, why would I invest? Because you're just going to take the good people away from me anyway. But the truth of the matter is, as well, you'll be in a much worse situation if you don't invest the time in really training those people to be great.
And if you've got good people and you don't train, you don't give them career opportunities, they'll work hard for a period of time, but eventually they'll either get frustrated or they'll leave. And that's something that we really have to make sure that we want to be a company that is pays people for performance, pays them well, there's a career path, and we want to be able to attract the best and the brightest in the world. You don't want to lose them, and it's hard enough as it is. So it's a high priority for us to make sure we're managing the talent within the company.
So is there anything that you sort of look back on? You've been there for 25 years, so you've got a pretty good history. Is there anything you look back and say, you know, these were one or two things that we really did right in terms of making sure that these are the things that we brought into the organization that really helped us get to where we are today? A couple things that stick out in your mind?
No, I've got to give a lot of credit to Frank Stronach. He's the founder of the company. He's still on the board. He doesn't have the control and share anymore. But if I look back, when I first came in, Magna was growing so fast, it sort of lacked some organization or discipline. So there was some areas we can improve in, but Frank really understood, I think, how people think, and he's very intuitive on how to motivate people. You make decisions based on your own background. In my background, I was a first-line supervisor. I've worked night shifts. I've worked manual labor. I was a first-line supervisor, a general supervisor, a superintendent. I've run plants. I've worked in unionized environment, non-unionized environment. And I think you want to have people who are managing that have come up somehow or other through the ranks, because when you've done that, you realize that everybody is asked to do different things, but everybody's equal. Mm-hmm. And you have to treat people, they're not numbers. They've got personalities, they've got families, they've got issues to deal with. They want to have a good job, they want to make more money. Yeah, you have to be organized, you have to have a hierarchy. But you know, Frank, when he was looking at this, that's why he put in employee opinion surveys. We've modified it over time, but let's get some real feedback. All the things we talked about earlier, the employee charter it started out with, but secret ballot votes. A lot of people would say, why would you do that? We're going to make the decision. Why would you put an employee advocate in? As a manager, I want to make all the decisions. It's actually better with an employee advocate, because as a manager, you're going to make a decision if 60% of the people want it one way and 40% of the people want it that way, and you make this decision, you're going to upset 40 people.
Yeah.
If you go to a secret ballot vote, they go, well, that was democratic. Yeah. Or an employee advocate goes out and talks to people, they say, look, here's what I recommend, and they're hearing it from the employee advocate as well, then people are saying, okay, it's a better process, it's fairer.
Well, it comes back to the transparency issue. I've always believed that, you know, it sometimes takes longer. I mean, I could, you know, as a senior leader in an organization say, well, here's the way it is. And I could be right, and I could have done all the research and have all the information. But if I take the time to share that information with people and start to really genuinely listen, as opposed to pretending I'm listening, but genuinely listening for their input, one of my favorite expressions is when I share with a larger group of people that I've been working with, is to say, you know, based on what we heard, this is what I think we heard, and even if folks don't get exactly what they want, they feel like, you know what, I'm one of a larger group, and the larger group has ruled here. And I think that's the secret to things like secret ballots and the employee engagement surveys, etc.
Yeah, especially on things that are not critical to a customer or critical to profitability. One of the reasons we have pretty strong technical managers is you want to have somebody who's making the right decisions on critical items, because we want to keep a customer happy, because we want to be more efficient. So you need to have somebody who's a decision maker and makes the right decisions. But as you say, you don't have somebody who's so autocratic they say, I'm going to make every decision. Because quite often, people who are doing a job, they know much better than the plant manager or corporate office how to do the job. So you want to listen. You want to listen to their suggestions. And if it's something you say, well, we're going to make a shift change, or we're going to do something different, and it doesn't affect productivity, but it helps people's lives for whatever reason, then why wouldn't you do it?
Well, I think one of the things that more leaders have to understand is that they're not the smartest person in the room all the time. There's a lot of people in that room who have tremendous value to offer based on a different perspective, closer to the issue. But we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break.